What's going on, guys, and welcome back to DSG. And in this video today, we're gonna be going after 7 mistakes that I think people are making in DSA. It doesn't mean that you are a new player, doesn't mean whether you're an old player. This is just players in general. This is something that I have been noticing because simply from just the questions people are asking and just some feedback that I get, like when people ask me about farming, and then I give them a response, and when they tell me who they're farming and why, and they tell me who their roster is and what their roster looks like, it's just kind of trends that I have been seeing that have me a little concerned. So I decided these are things that I consider, a mistake, or maybe just not doing something that I would do, and I think you could do there's a better way of doing it, and hopefully I can give you guys a different perspective of how I would run things on my account. So the first mistake that I see is going to be farming every elite battle character and not gear. So I remember one time someone was asking me who to farm elite battles, and basically I came to the conclusion they were literally farming any character they could with their energy, and they weren't focusing on gear. They're using all their club coins on gear, which is a good thing, but they weren't spending any energy with gear. You should be farming certain characters. You should be farming characters in elite battles, and you should also be farming gear. Now, if you're a free-to-play player, I would say the max you should be doing for elite battle farming is 2 characters at a time. I think if you're at 2 characters at a time, you're pretty suitable at that point. Anything more than that, you're kind of going across a boundary I wouldn't go to, especially if you're a free-to-play player. I think if you go more than 2 players or 2 characters at a time farming elite battles in a day, or just in general, if those are your 2 main farms. For instance, if you're going for, let's just say, Ralph right now, right? And so your elite battle farms are going to be you have Felix and Vanellope, and that's pretty much it, because Calhoun can be in the tournament exchange, and then Shank and King Candy are going to be your grand campaign farms. If I were you, I would only farm those 2, Felix and Vanellope. Don't go out and being like, hey, I don't know, I need Moana because she's an Oceanic, and I need her because she is an elite battle farm, so I have to farm her because of that. Don't do that. Especially if you're a free-to-play player, do not do that. You have to focus, and you have to get a certain grouping together of characters, and you need to also spend on gear. Whatever excess energy that you do have, use that on gear. Get your max amount of farms and maybe 2 characters at most, and then move on to get that gear. That's going to be more important and really make you a stronger player. And even if you're not free to play and you do kind of spend more, you should focus on gear too. That's one of the biggest things that I see people doing, is that, which is actually a topic later. Gear is important, so limit yourself to, maybe even if you are can do a little spending, limit yourself to 2 to 3 characters at a time. No more than that, because you're going to be spreading yourself thin. So that's gonna be my biggest tip for you guys, is go ahead and farm your characters, but make sure you're also farming gear, because if you're doing more one than the other, then you're gonna be at a loss. There's an equal balance here. My second mistake that I see people doing is complaining about grand campaign farming. So sometimes, they'll be let's just say they find a grand campaign character. We'll go to Shank, because this is actually what I'm farming right now. They'll be like, okay, I'm gonna, get the 100 gem pack when it's 100 gems for energy, and then do auto and like that, and oh man, I got 1 drop and I spent 100 gems. Might as well go to the exchange and then get, I don't know, 150 for 3 tokens. You gotta play with the numbers here. The drop rates are going to be roughly 30%. And how do I know that? Well, I actually do have a sheet here that I've kept track of all my drops. But as you can see in this section right here, these grand campaign farms, I've had 3,200 character token drops out of 11,000 attempts. The drop rate percentage is 27.7% for me. It could be, it is around that 30% mark. My total average drops a day is about 15. My average attempts is about 56 a day. Why do these numbers vary? Well, sometimes a character is 14 energy, sometimes a character is 12 energy, sometimes a character is 8 energy. when it comes to grand campaign farming. So when someone tells me that, hey, you know, I'm not getting the drop rates that you're getting and I just rather would buy them outright, you know, that doesn't really add up, because if you do the attempts through this and you buy 300 gems, you're only getting 6 drops. So if you buy 3 gem packs, 100 gems, that's 300 gems in a day. If you could have, you know, that's where your spending habit is, and you do the drop rates, you're gonna beat this every single time. You should be. If some days, of course, the RNG is gonna be bad, some days gonna be good, but in the long run, your drop rates are going to surpass these packs here. 100%. I can pretty much guarantee it. It's most of the time, you know, I will definitely hit double digits, especially if it's a 12 or 8 energy drop. But if it's a 14 energy drop, you know, sometimes I'll hit the 9, sometimes I won't. But most days when it comes to 12 or 8 energy, I will definitely hit double digits every single day. Very rarely that I won't. So when it comes to this farming, you gotta play the numbers. You can't just keep on second guessing it and just going out throughout here, because you are losing out on just efficiency overall. I've just gotta play the numbers. That's gonna be my second tip for you guys, or second mistake that I see a lot of players making, is just not playing the numbers with grand campaign farms. Elite battle farms I can understand, because sometimes you can go 0 for 3, so it can be pretty bad. But that's going to be my one tip for you guys, or another mistake that I do notice when it comes to grand campaign farming: people not playing the numbers, them just trying to fight the numbers to hopefully get a better result. Number 3 is spending inefficiently in the exchanges. So just to recap, if you're not buying the stamina potions, you're buying character tokens, you're doing it wrong. If you are in the spell tower exchange where you get spells and you're buying them individually, you're doing it wrong. Just get the spell packs. You have better efficiencies, can help you outright overall. Raid exchange. Do not buy any characters here. Do not buy any characters here. Only illusions, cheap faction pieces, and here again, don't go for characters here. Just go for the tier 7 gear. And here, no characters, gear. So in short, only buy gear in the exchanges. Never buy character tokens, characters in general, unless you are in the tournament exchange. It makes sense, because that's the only thing you can really get out of there, except, you know, stamina potions. If Summoner Showdown is your thing, go ahead and go for it. The number 4 mistake I see is people gearing up and leveling up every character they have in their roster. Just because you unlock another character in the game does not mean you need to gear them up. As you can see, I have a lot of characters here stuck at level 1. The characters who are like at level here, they're for showdown. You can see all level 8s, these guys are for showdown. Some of these other guys early on, I haven't touched Gaston, Tink, Hopper for a long time. Leave these guys where they need to be. You don't need to level them up. You don't need to touch them really, unless you're gonna go for showdown. I guess for showdown, get them to level 2. I would say 3, 3, and 3, 2 are worth it. Anything above that, not worth it. Leave them there. It's okay. You don't need to level up every single character in your roster. You can use those resources for someone more important. Like up here, these characters are much more important. Use those resources there. That's gonna be the 4th mistake I see people making in the game, is trying to make sure their roster looks very fluffy and not very powerful. Number 5, not having in-game goals for game modes, for farming and gearing. I'll like shuffle through some of like my farming plan for grand campaign mainly right now, and also my gearing plan. If you don't have a plan, I would say on a monthly basis, you're gonna get lost in this game. I think having maybe like a quarterly game plan as well, like, hey, this quarter I'm going to try and get my Oceanics going, I'm going to get my Kingdom going, I'm going to get this team going, I'm going to get 2 legendaries this quarter, something along those lines. You're going to be able to do well. But I prefer doing things on a monthly basis, because this game changes pretty frequently, except between March and June. It's really slow and predictable. But now, since like June, things have been kind of unpredictable in DSA and who's going to be rising up and whatnot. So that's why I say, at least for the time being, since there's not a lot of predictability, change your goal setting every month and review it. Maybe not change, but at least review and make minor adjustments to it. Unless something major comes out, like there's another herc or something like that comes into the game, then change accordingly. But in general, you gotta have a plan. You gotta have a plan for your farming, you gotta have a plan for your gearing, and you gotta have a plan for, hey, you know, maybe I want to do better in raids, maybe I want to do better in Summoner Showdown, maybe I want to do better in Sorcerer Tournament, something like that. You have to have a plan for each game, for a game mode you're gonna focus on. You can try and focus on all the game modes. Some characters are going to be double dippers, like for instance, you can have beasts who can double dip like basically like in every single game mode, which is nice. And then of course like someone like Triton can double dip in Ascension and also raids, so there's another character there. But in general, you should really have a plan for what you're trying to accomplish. And number 6, underestimating the power of gear. I see a lot of people with a lot of stars but no gear, and I've seen this, and I'm guilty of it. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. You can't gear up every single person, but they end up having like no gear 7s and just a bunch of gear 6s, and they're like level 70, and they're trying to, you know, brush it and say like, well, it just takes so long to get to gear tier 7. I just wanted to get everyone up. No. You'd rather have a very narrow, strong, starting 5, 10, 15 characters than a roster of fluff with like I don't know, 50 characters who can't do anything basically. And gear is so much more important than stars. There's a certain point where stars can be important as well. Even in Ascension can kind of be important, because what really you're looking for in the stars is the health boost and the defense boost. That's basically all you're kind of looking for there, for especially like for Ascension campaign. That's kind of what you're looking for. But I mean, I've been able to do Ascension campaign with certain characters being at 5 stars, so that's where stars are not going to be as important as gear, because I had them at 5 stars, but they had all their speed pieces for gear tier 7. For instance, who am I talking about? My Lotso over here. Lotso has a speed piece for gear tier 7, but he's only 5 stars, and he was able to carry me through. And he didn't even put his second speed piece. I was able to get through Ascension for Toy Story, but I did not 3-star them yet. I'm going to, but I'm going to need to bring these guys pretty much all the way up to gear tier 8 to do that. But it's definitely doable, and you need to work on that gear, because gear will take you farther than stars ever will. And my last tip here is going to be not being in a suitable club. I think people, you know, if you want to, if this calls to a certain group of people too. You know, if you're more competitive and you're like the number 1 person on your club, like number 1 summoner score, you carry them through raids, you carry them in club conquest and all these other things, and everyone's like kind of mooching off you in that sense, it might be time to move on to a more competitive club. I would say you should be aware in 2 ways. If you are the lowest summoner score on your club and you're maybe not contributing as much as you could, let's say in raids, maybe you're not really doing as much damage as some of the other people, or in club conquest you only can put out a couple defenses, maybe like 3, 4, 5 defensive teams that are strong for your club. I'm talking about like, you know, a more top tier club. Maybe you should move to like a more mid tier club where it's still kind of competitive, but you won't be at the bottom of the pack. And on the flip side of that, if you're at the top of the pack, like you're at the top of summoner score, everyone's, you know, counting on you to do something, and without you they would be out of the loop basically. And actually, one of my good friends, fellow content creator, he told me that, you know, I had to switch clubs because of my summoner score and my power. I was actually lifting my team into like the next tier for the betterment of the club. He moved on to a more powerful club because that way, you know, his efforts were pretty much equal to what everyone was giving, as he was like pretty much carrying the club in a sense. And he was able to, the other club was able to be more successful in club conquest when it actually counted. The club was able to more stand on its 2 feet because they were not relying on a solitary person anymore. So being in a suitable club has many aspects too. You know, maybe you want more social club, find a more social club. Maybe you just want a club that's very, you know, what some of us call like a retiree club, where, you know, the game has kind of fizzled out for you, but you still kind of want to do some of the more important things like heroic raids and whatnot. Find a you know, a retirement club basically, where it's more maybe casual, a lot more chatter, and it's just about playing the game at your own pace. I think that's good. And you know, it's going to come to a time where a lot of clubs like that are going to exist in DSA, but we're not there yet exactly, and there's still a lot of competitive clubs out there. So I think these 7, mistakes or just things that I noticed in DSA in general. I don't like. I feel like if I say mistakes, people might take it the wrong way, but I guess it's the only way I can call this video. But if you see yourself making or falling into these categories, just, take it lightly. I may have been blunt here and there, but that's just how my delivery is. Just kind of get my point across. But just because I may have said something that kind of ringed a bell to you, doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It's just, I think you could be doing something better. Take this with a grain of salt, of course. I'm just another person on the internet blabbing about. But I think with these topics and ideas, if you were to make some changes, hopefully they can help you out in the near future. Anyways, guys, thank you so much. Help us get to 1,000 subscribers by Labor Day. We're very far from that, but of course it's a far-fetched goal, but it's something that has kind of become like a little joke for me personally to get there. But I do want to hit 1K subscribers as soon as possible, because I think that's just going to be a big milestone for the channel. Been around for a year now, and hopefully we can get there soon. Anyways, guys, thank you so much. Share it with your friends, share it with your club, and hope to see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.